Hello and welcome to another episode of Despite the Challenges, a show where we showcase people with amazing abilities who not only, despite their impeding circumstances and challenges, not only they turn around their own lives, but they go out in community and do amazing things. Today I have in my studio a gentleman who faced unique challenges in his childhood, which not only he turned around to his benefit, but he has been an active supporter and doing great things in the community to change the norms and make things in a life a little bit easier to understand for other people. I welcome Robert Hedden. Robert, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored. So I could
Glad to have you. So
Thank
tell
you,
us
yes.
a little bit who Robert Hedden is.
Robert Hedden is a gentleman who was born in Trenton, New Jersey. I'm the oldest of 3 children, and I come from a diverse background, a diverse area in Trenton. I'm the first person to go to college in my family, and in the area that I'm from, Trenton, when I was in 6th grade, I was the minority in my community. So I was the only Caucasian in my class of a lot of African.
So you were.
So I was the minority, yeah. So it's
Considered
interesting.
minority.
Yes. So it's interesting when we say white privilege and things like that. You don't realize that somebody that is Caucasian can sometimes be a minority in certain circumstances.
Correct.
So that opened my eyes because I didn't realize that people could dislike you or hate you based on what you look like. And the first couple of days of my class, people called me names and they were violent toward me and some of the students in the class, and I couldn't understand why. And I was like, they don't know me. Why are they doing this? And it wasn't until later that I realized that it's because they saw TV and Leave It to Beaver and all these happy families of European descent that had the perfect lives and a white picket fences, but that wasn't my life. And actually I was more impoverished than a lot of the people that were in my class, but because they saw that on TV, I was considered, the bad,
So you were also a casualty of a stereotyping.
Exactly, and prejudice and things like that, because unfortunately, when you look in the media, even nowadays, people that quote unquote, are in control of our country tend to be a lot of European descent and people like that. So they looked at me like, oh, you're white, so therefore you are privileged and your family has money and your ancestors owned slaves and but it was very interesting because it opened my eyes at that age to realize that like people can judge you based on what you look like without even knowing your heart and your intent.
Yes.
So that experience really changed my life for the better because I realized that I didn't like that happening to me, and I made it a point that I wouldn't want that happening to anybody else in their lives.
Yes.
So
that's a huge at the young age of a 6th grader.
Exactly, and
Right.
it opened my mind to a lot of things too that you don't think about at that age. I mean,
Yes. So anything that stood out that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, in 6th grade, what really stood out was me getting jumped or beat up when I would leave to go home, because I'd walk home every day. And it was difficult because it wasn't just one-on-one, it was a group of people that would...
Because you were a minority.
Because I was the minority, yes. I was the Eminem of my neighborhood, only I couldn't rap. I wasn't a very rap singer, but it was very, like I said, it was interesting because it really opened my eyes, but once they got to know me, and I also learned in my class too that the white stereotypes, that if someone of African descent or another thing, if they wanted to articulate and speak properly, oh, you're trying to be white. And it was really breaking because I couldn't understand, like, what is white, what is being black, what is this, what is that, because we're all individuals. And I realized in my community too, if you wanted to better yourself, in my particular circumstance, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to better myself to help my community once I got out, and I don't forget where I came from. But other people, if they tried to better themselves, they're trying to be white. And I realized that, like, when I was trying to better myself...
Being white means to follow the lifestyle of
Yeah, like like a certain way of speaking. It's really interesting, like articulating. Like that's where that area. And I'm not generalizing. That's just my own experience where I come up.
But your neighborhood.
My neighborhood, correct?
You're talking about your neighborhood,
yes,
just to kind of make it clear.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know, like I mean, when I studied to go to college, oh, you're a nerd. They would call me that, but when someone else would do that, it was like they were trying to be white or something, and I'm like, what does that mentality?
What does that mean?
That's basically self-oppression sometimes, you know, and you know,
so you were getting hard lessons.
Very, very hard lessons, but eye-opening lessons, though.
Eye-opening lessons. So, and that started your interest into being interested in cultural issues or diversity issues, but that's not the only thing.
Yes, yeah. So that was when I grew up as a child, like I said, and it really opened my eyes about socioeconomic background and race, religion. I mean, it's just differences in general, because it was interesting to me because at that age, finding out that people just judged me based on what I looked like and had all these assumptions because I was a male and white and that this and that, but I'm like, they don't know me. You know, they don't know the inner part of me that cares about people, that isn't all those stereotypes and prejudices that they have. And I took time to get to know the inner me, and once they got to know me, they realized, oh wait, you know, like I don't represent all Caucasians, you know, like a President Obama doesn't rep all African Americans or these people that we always pick out. I mean, we're all individuals. We're diverse as people. We have
our own set of values.
Exactly, you know.
How did you deal with? Did you go talk to your family or anyone that you trusted? How did you cope with that, and in order to understand?
Well, first I didn't, because of the socioeconomic background. My dad was very sick at the time, and it was a public school, and I would get beat up a lot, as you would call it. But I would come home, and my mom would say what would happen, and I would never let her know what would happen because I know she couldn't afford to send me to another school. So it was always hard for me not to let her know what was really going on, how bad I was being bullied, and things like that, because I know I didn't want to put her under the stress of realizing how bad it was for me. So it was hard, but like I said, the more I got through it, and I knew every day when I was coming home from school that there would be a group load of students waiting to attack me because of my race and my, you know, what I was perceived to be my gender and race, but I never went the other way. I always went home the same way, and I just made it a point that I'm not going to let them scare me, and, you know, and just go home. And then they left me alone.
That courage.
I had the courage, yeah, because the first time it happened to me, I was in shock, literally. I didn't know why that was where it was coming from, but afterwards I realized that, you know.
You talk about a little bit on getting involved with Nami, which you are
currently
on the board of directors, and there is a history to how you came to participate. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Exactly. Thank you. And I appreciate this. So that was my childhood in Trenton, and then I eventually went to college, and my experience in 6th grade always stuck with me, being different in the other. And what happened was, in college, I joined a lot of the cultural organizations because I realized there was self-segregation on campus. You know, we had the Black Student Union, the Asian American Association, Union Latina, and I was actually president of the Irish American Club. And you know, the Irish, everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
So I was like, why are we all separating? We should embrace all cultures, because that's the beauty of culture. To get to share with other people, not just, you know, and I just didn't understand it. So what I did was I started putting on a lot of events, and I joined all the cultural organizations. And I said, instead of having all these separate entities, of course it's good to be with your own culture and share, but it's also good at times to share with other people. That's what it's all about. You know, you have such rich cultures, all of us, wherever you are.
Have a lot of similarities.
Exactly.
We have a lot of
music,
differences.
Bhangra, and all this stuff, and the Irish dancing. It's like I love the beats of all these musical things. I'm like, and people aren't.
And the food and
the food, exactly. Food. You can't go wrong with food.
No,
you know,
food and fun that goes together. So you find the diversity. Dealing with diversity issues again in college.
Yes, and actually too, being of Irish heritage. My own history of, you know, what happened in Ireland with the potato famine and the way, you know, the Northern Ireland, the religious, so I can relate to a lot of other nationalities and religious minorities as a Catholic, you know, from that area from hundreds of years ago, and coming here and not having a place to work, and, you know, Irish need not apply, and discrimination happened all the way back then, and then I find myself in relative times being, you know, looked at differently because of my what I look like, you know.
Now you dragged yourself into the cultural issue.
Yes, you know, so
going back hundreds of years. So that's an interesting combination of events that's happening. So continue.
Yeah, so like I said, so then I joined all the cultural organizations. I brought everyone together, and we talked about unity. And like I said, when I first joined a couple of the cultural organizations that were non-European descent, some people looked like, who is this white guy coming? He's not such and such ethnicity. Why are you here? And when I explained why I was there, they really understood and appreciated my concerns and wanted to be involved in how we needed unity. And I was eventually elected on the executive board of the Black Student Union. So I always call myself kindly as a light-skinned brother because I was accepted and embraced by the African Americans on my campus because of my cultural understanding and my sensitivity and my experience as a child. So from there, a little after that, I started experiencing depression, which I'll get into now, which was very, very hard. And I had to withdraw a couple times from school, and it was difficult. But what happened was with that was that I had no energy. I couldn't function. I couldn't get out of bed. And my mom kept saying, you know, like, something's wrong with you. And I got blood work done, and I got a lot of things done. And the doctor kept saying, you're fine. Everything's fine with you. And I kept saying, why am I fine? I can't get out of bed. I can't function. I can't concentrate. And it got to the point that it was so bad that I just started isolating. I couldn't function. And my mom actually said to me, it's all in your head. The doctor says you're fine. You're healthy. You're in better shape than most people your age. Just get over it. You're a hypochondriac. And having said that and knowing something wasn't right, I went to a psychiatrist. And I was diagnosed with major depression with an underlying anxiety disorder. Okay. And from there, entered my world in another type of adversity and diversity with mental illness and the stigma that comes across as that as well, and discrimination that occurs. So
yes. Misunderstanding.
Definitely, because unfortunately, my role now as a board member of Nami, like I said, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Mercer County branch, is to educate others and let people know that there's nothing to be ashamed about. I was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but my bipolar isn't what typically what you see in the news. The stigmatizing violent people and all the horrendous things in the media. That's totally not me in a lot of other people's cases, and that's what actually holds people from getting help, because it's just so scary when you see all these things. That's what happens when you don't get the right treatment,
So there might be a lot of people in the audience that might relate to what you are saying. There might be occasional behavioral symptoms, but not strong enough to identify that they need support or they need medical help, or they need to go to see a doctor. But I think that's in a very good discussion that you experience this physically healthy, but you don't know. Let's talk about it a little bit more. Then you identify that you was a bipolar, but not of a severe kind.
Well, it was interesting because, like I said, first diagnosed with major depression, and what is interesting about my situation about living with an illness like that is that I was incorrectly diagnosed for a while. So I was put on the wrong medications. I was put on all classes of antidepressants, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which were the newer ones at the time. They didn't work, and then I was put on something called tricyclic antidepressants, which caused a lot of weight gain. They didn't work, and then they put me on another class, which is the older class, which is called the monoamine oxidase inhibitors. And those are the most highly class of antidepressants that cause the worst side effects in terms of life-threatening side effects. And with the monoamine oxidase inhibitors, as in college I was taking these at the time, you couldn't have anything that had age, anything with triamine, which is an amino acid. So anything with cheese, anything that you could have something called the hypertensive crisis. So basically I was given a list of all the foods that I couldn't eat that would have a reaction with the food, and the list was like a papyrus that scrolled all the way down. And I said, can't you just give me a list of the food that I can eat? Because you're telling me I can't eat anything on this medication. But to make a long story short, that didn't help me out as well. And I had to keep withdrawing, and the side effects with the sedation. And worst came to the worst, my doctor said, we can't help you. You have something called refractory depression.
Which means?
Hard to treat depression, where none of the medications that they were giving you are helping you. And it's so severe that he basically said, I think you need to get something called ECT. And I said, what's ECT? And it was electroconvulsive therapy.
Okay.
And that's like something you see on the movies and things like that. And that's what my mind jumped to, was that horror. And what I said to myself at that point in my life, well, you know what? Either it'll help me, like they say, or if I think it's like the electric chair in my mind because I was so depressed, it'll kill me. But either way, I'll be out of my misery, I'll be helped, or I'll just die from this process because I just can't live like this anymore. And I went and got it done, and it helped a little bit. It had some cognitive memory impairments, but I had to withdraw from college many times. Eventually made it through college, was able to graduate, and I was put on the right medications, which are mood stabilizers for me, which helped me stay in the middle so that I'm not really hyper and I'm not really severely depressed. And but for me, though, with the mental illness aspect of it, was the stigma, the fear, feeling like you're the only one. Again, like the outsider, you know, and the fact that something like that, like people can't see. You know, you try to see, like people can see your race, your religion, your, I mean,
you're a
external
mainstream
stuff.
person. For an outsider, you're a mainstream person. A white male, you are privileged.
Oh yes.
Right?
Not all of us, but yes.
In a
some
way,
extent, to some extent, yeah.
Correct, right?
Yeah,
in a general
In generalized,
perception.
exactly.
So what could be wrong?
Exactly. Yeah. Why are
Right.
you so depressed? Yeah.
Yes. So for you to have that diversity experience, and then where you felt as a minority, and then understanding race relations or understanding of cultural relations, you yourself become a victim of something else.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the story now, medical diagnosis, wrong medication, getting worse, to coming to a stage where then is either I live or I don't.
Exactly.
Tell a little bit.
So yeah, and it got to the point, but like I said, at that point I found something called Nami, which is on the board of Nami now, and they had a program called Inner Own Voice where people with mental illnesses come and they speak about their experiences. And I thought it would be an eye-opener, besides an advocate on campus for race relations and unity. I felt that actually mental health was actually even less discussed than racial issues and other things that were very more open, like gender and sexuality. That was more talked about on campus, but yet the mental health, there was still a big taboo in that area.
I see.
And I wanted to change that because I realized how important it was, and the suicide rate, and there's a lot of things. The onset of many mental illnesses are college years. And I was very empowered to want to help educate other people because I didn't want them to have to go through what I went through and suffer for so many years. We're average, normal, everyday people. We're not what you see in the media. That's what happens when you don't get the right mental health.
Before we go into another topic, so what made you change from your ECT to go into any other kind of therapy?
It helped for a little bit, but then at that time, then I was actually diagnosed with bipolar because I'd feel really, really great for a while, have a lot of energy, and then I would crash. Really, really great, and they realized it was a pattern of ups and downs. And my ups weren't really severe, but the crashes were.
Okay.
And so that's when I was put on a mood stabilizer, and that's the same class like the lithiums, the anticonvulsants, those type of things, and it seems to be managing me, and I've been really, really well in it for many years. But but that, like I said, that experience always stuck with me, and having the Inner Own Voice program come to my college, educate other people, and it was an eye opener for me. And I was really, really depressed and really bad at that time. On the medication side effects were the worst, with the weight gain and cognitive impairment and you name it, I had it. And I put on that on campus, and it was very positive. And the students were so moved by it, and so many students came up to speakers and said, you know what, I have depression, or my mom has it, my friend. And I realized how common it was, but we weren't speaking about it. And here I am I put on the event, and I talked to them, and I realized, you know what, if I ever got well enough and better, I would do what they do to help other people out. And that's what I do now, many years later.
So let's fast forward. You got involved with Nami.
Yeah, exactly.
And that opens up door for you to explore the topic in greater detail. And ever since, you had been doing great things in a community. A list is very long.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your community work.
Yeah, well, my community work actually involved, I worked at Princeton University Fine Hall Library, and I had the opportunity to work with John Nash, who is world-renowned for being a person affected by schizophrenia. And I realized with him, his fame and notoriety made him loved and revered by the whole community. and yet other people that were perceived to have mental illnesses weren't treated as kindly. Because
I
they didn't
see.
have movies, they weren't Nobel laureates, it wasn't thing. Or like other people, So that also empowered me to advocate. So after I worked for Princeton, that's when I really started getting involved with Nami, and I did public speaking. And recently, within the past year or two, I've been speaking to politicians. I met with about mental health issues. I met with Governor Christie in regard to integrated healthcare, and the fact that we need mental health services also with drug and alcohol treatment.
Collaboration to
combined, because you can't treat one without the other a lot of times.
Yes.
A lot of people self-medicate. So from there, meeting with Governor Christie, then I found myself meeting highly influential people. I never thought a guy from Trenton would be meeting all these people.
Now you become a celebrity.
Yeah, so I don't know about that, but it's nice that celebrities of that type have the kindness to want to speak with someone like me that has my experience, and it helps me feel good that they are listening, thank God, and seeing the value of what I say, and not only that, but are acting upon what I'm saying and to help the community.
Yes. So you're doing great things.
Yeah, and like I said, I met Patrick Kennedy, who's a big mental health advocate from the Kennedy family, and was the Rhode Island, believe congressman of Rhode Island, and there's a lot of great people. John Nash, like I said, and it's like I said, it's amazing. I just recently was in Philadelphia and met President Obama actually for an event. And it's just amazing. You don't think that you would actually see the President of the United States literally this as far away from you on a stage. And I'm saying, like, how am I here? And I got to sit close to Governor Wolf of Pennsylvania and Senator Casey and all these great people. And you talk to them, and it's like, wow. Totally unbelievable that you're around these people.
You couldn't imagine in a 6th grade.
No. I didn't even know about politics in 6th grade. I didn't know that's how the world worked. That in order to make change, you have to talk to these people that have the power to make the change.
That makes me feel so grateful that how critical we become of ourselves, and if we let it go and be ourselves and be humans and accept we are the way we are and let those things go, great things happen.
Exactly.
Right? Great things happen. And you open the door of success for yourself. You have to. You keep the door shut, nothing can pass through. Right? Tell us a little bit on any of the incident that stand out when you became a Nami advocate, board of director, when you had been doing outreach work with other organizations, and there's so many that you name. So what are the really significant areas of successes that you have seen as a child? Services may not have been available, or the cultural stigma, social stigma, or laws relating to, or education facilities or options. Anything that's had been in your experiences, share with our viewers.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think what really stuck out was me advocating and being open about my mental illness, because I didn't realize by me being open about it how much it empowered other people. Because we see in the news a lot of other minorities or people with illnesses or things like gender, sexuality, CEOs of companies saying they're gay, lesbian, transgender, or things like that. But you don't really hear someone from a Fortune 500 company saying they suffer from schizophrenia, or a person affected by bipolar disorder. And because of that, I realized that I need to be open about it, to let people know that it's okay, you can be successful, nothing to be ashamed about. And I started doing that, and I've gotten a really good feedback, which is fortunate, because a lot of people aren't as blessed as me.
That is actually widespread than it could be acknowledged, and a lot of people have maybe a minor emotional upset or something. Not necessarily they would diagnose it with any sort of mental disorder, right? How you see that culturally is being accepted more than 10, 20 years ago?
Well, things for me with the mental illness is getting better, because even when I first came about, when I had the depressive symptoms, it was more blamed on me. You're lazy. you can't get out of bed. It's because of you. You know, you did all this to yourself and things like that, and not realizing it was a a condition that based on brain chemistry and social situations and external environmental factors that it wasn't all me. It was
Yes.
and I'm more than just my depression and my bipolar disorder. So that's what really opened my eyes, that people are becoming more aware of mental illness in terms of it's a medical treatable condition.
Okay.
And it's not a personal flaw in you. It's actually something that can be treated, and you could be very successful.
Right. That's a good sign.
Exactly.
Are there any other significant changes that you see as for providing services to people who need?
Yeah, things like I said, things are getting better. It's not as good. Of course, everything can always be better, but it's compared to the way they are, things are a lot better. And I'm really optimistic about the future for people that have mental illnesses. That will be great things. And this, on a note, like I always say, the stigma of mental illness is so bad. But like, I'd rather have a doctor that had suffered from schizophrenia or that was receiving the right help and was open about it than someone that was hiding it and not having the support services. So like I said, tell me who has mental illness is getting the right help, and that's my doctor. That's my like, I want that person because I know they're being helped. It's always the people that I'm concerned about that are hiding and not getting the treatment because of the stigma. And that's what we need to change about being open.
Yes. Well, Robert, this was such a important information to share with our viewers. Is there any advice that you want to give it to our viewers?
Just that you never give up, and in the face of anything, if whether it be depression or racial discrimination or whatever you call it, always have hope in your heart and use any disadvantage you have as an advantage to help other people out and become more compassionate. Because some individuals can take negative things and become angry and resentful, but I chose not to go that route. I have love, compassion in my heart, and realize that we're all individuals, and the fact that we need to love and care for each other, regardless of where we come from, whom we are, what religion, anything. We're one. We're really one. We always separate ourselves by the externals, but we're really one, and we need to love each other as one.
And we are. And I really thank you for sharing your story and your work that you are doing in the community with our viewers. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I guess you could have a clip about my contact information if anyone wants to get in touch with Nami. And we're currently working on a documentary that will be out. The documentary will be out soon. So,
Great.
It's very, very good. Yeah, it's about the family experience of having a mental illness, and it's a really wonderful project. So I really appreciate you having me on, and thank you for all your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And for our viewers, this was another episode of Despite the Challenges. I am host Ritu Chopra, and until next time.